Now, U.S. President Donald Trump, speaking at a NATO summit press conference, has vowed to help end vicious and violent conflicts on the African continent. Africa right now has got problems like few people would even understand. That's the quote coming from Donald Trump. He promised that his goal was to build up the U.S. military and bring peace to the world. Now, his remarks have drawn some criticism on social media, with some commentators on Twitter suggesting Mr. Trump was reinforcing Western stereotypes of the continent.
But of course, not all 54 African countries are at war. The American president's comments generalize the situation on the continent, and it's not the first time. A few months ago, he made derogatory comments. Nevertheless, with this declaration on peace in Africa, one wonders whether the United States intends to change its military strategy on the continent. And note that the American army is already present in Niger and in Djibouti.
Yes, Calvin Dark is an African and international affairs analyst, and he is with us right now. First off, Calvin, what do you make of President Trump's comments? Some of these comments have been criticized, just as we reported earlier. But what do you make of them? Is Trump changing his opinions on Africa?
No, Trump isn't changing his opinions on Africa, and his comments during the press conference support the derogatory comments he made earlier this year about African countries. He has the same uninformed and inaccurate perceptions of African countries where there's only poverty and violence. It's so infuriating because his comments reinforce those same backward stereotypes that Africa is just one country where there's nothing but problems. There's no way that the United States and African countries can really be partners unless President Trump sees African countries as having something positive to offer.
Calvin, maybe we need to just restate where we are coming from. I mean, from his alleged shadow description of some countries on the continent to his ban of some citizens of certain countries from entering the U.S., and some include African countries. How do you think Mr. Trump wants to come out as the good guy here with his promise to help end vicious conflicts on the continent?
When I heard President Trump make the comments that few people would understand the problems in Africa like him, I thought I heard him wrong. There are so many Americans who, like myself, have lived, worked, studied, vacationed, done business all over Africa. And we know that there are problems, and we also know that there are tremendous successes, just like in the United States. Even in his own administration, he has people that know African countries extremely well and are experts, but he's obviously not listening to them unless they're explaining to him how vicious and violent the continent is, as he said. Now, when it comes to how he's going to come out, he will come out as the good guy for the people that matter to him, his base of supporters. He ran a campaign for president that started with blaming immigrants for America's problems, crime, unemployment, weighing down our welfare system. And as president, he has doubled down on it, and it always lands on black and brown immigrants and these ignorant perceptions about the countries and cultures that they, and I say we as an African American myself, come from. So he is a part of the problem.
Calvin, the U.S. has recorded some losses in of its military personnel in Africa. Of recent is that of the case recorded in Niger. Now, the promise he is making, that is the promise Mr. Trump is making, can also mean that he is specifically trying to renew the targeting of terror groups on the continent. Could this be so, Calvin?
Good luck trying to find a clear strategy about what the United States military is planning on doing in Africa based on Trump's comments. They were so full of contradictions. He spent his time in the NATO conference complaining that the United States spends more than its share protecting NATO allies. And this is on top of the criticism of past U.S. presidents that he said spent way too much money on wars and conflicts in other countries, and that he will not allow America to do the same thing under his watch. But at the same time, he's promising to invest much more money in our military so that we can resolve conflicts and show our strength everywhere, including in Africa. And it's unclear to me that Trump understands and is prepared to confront the real complexity of targeting different terror groups in different areas of the continent. Maybe that's why he's so insistent on creating the Space Force to tackle these problems that he's always talking about. Honestly, no one knows.